This is Miss Morris, teacher of strings, here from the Winston-Salem Symphony to help you learn how to tune your own instrument. This is the violin video. There'll be a separate one for viola, cello, and bass. The violin strings are E, A, D, and G. You'll be using the fine tuners below each string to tune each string. In the rare case that you have to use the pegs to tune the string, please follow the string up and look at which peg it's wrapped around. The lower two pegs control the outer strings. The upper two pegs control the middle two strings. The lower strings are on this side, the higher strings are on this side. Instruments need to be tuned daily. Kindergartner through third graders will have their parents tune their instruments. Fourth graders and above can learn to tune their instruments themselves. Don't practice with an out-of-tune instrument. Watch the entire video, maybe even a couple times before you start to tune. Traditionally, string teachers teach their students to tune their own instruments over several weeks or months. So don't worry about watching this video more than once and keep watching. I know this is a lot of Miss Morris, but keep watching till the end of the video. These are the fine tuners. They're going to change the pitch a little bit. You can turn them a lot and not break a string. These are the pegs. If you move them a lot, the string will break. Think about moving them in millimeters. The fine tuners are for daily tuning. The pegs will be used for big adjustments in the pitch. Daily tuning uses the fine tuners only. Both are righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. Tightening the string makes the pitch go up. Loosening the string, or lefty-loosey, makes the pitch go down. This is the bridge. It's not glued on. It will fall if the strings get too loose. If the bridge has fallen, you can research on YouTube for more videos, but you can also contact Miss Rachel or Miss Morris for more help. Remember that tuning takes practice. Miss Morris has a lot of practice in tuning instruments, so take your time and do your best. So I'm using the camera on the front of the iPad. So this is all going to look backwards to you. This is my right hand. This is my left hand. So give you a little bit of reference. So the N button is going to go on your leg. Make sure you're sitting. The N button goes on your leg. Your left hand is going to be holding the instrument by the neck and the body right at the base of the neck. And you're going to pluck the string with your thumb. And you're going to take your right hand and you're going to move, I can't really get it all in the picture, but you're going to move the fine tuners with your right hand. So if you're left-handed, you're just going to switch. So your right hand is going to be holding the instrument and your left hand is going to be moving the fine tuners. Remember, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. You're going to need a tuner. This one I found by searching violin tuning apps in the App Store on my phone. This is what my tuner looks like in the App Store. It's called Tuner Lite by Pascore. This is what my tuner looks like in the app. I have two options. I can either match pitch, it'll play 440, or I can play my string. You want it to be on 0, so you're just adjusting with the fine tuners, not the pegs, the fine tuners. You're adjusting and tightening it, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. If you turn it to the right where your thumb is going over, it's righty-tighty. If your thumb is going under, it's lefty-loosey. So you're just moving it around, until it gets to 0. This one is a little bit under. I'm going to bring it up to 0. And my voice is going to make it go back and forth because it's picking up whatever it hears. So when you are adjusting, make sure you look for the letter name, if there's a sharp or flat, and 440. You can adjust the calibration with these two buttons. We here in the United States use A440. Other countries might use a different calibration. So if you're collaborating with anybody, you can change that calibration and retune your instrument, or ask them to retune their instrument. So when you're tuning, look for the needle at 0. It's going to be really steady when you're playing a tone versus talking. And then make sure you have the right letter name and you don't have the sharp or the flat. For example, if you have if you're tuning to D and it says D flat, you need to keep bringing it up because D flat is lower than D, and then D sharp is higher than D. So a flat is lower, a sharp is higher. So just look for those symbols on top and not just the 0. So at this point, we're going to talk about tuning with the pegs. The reason you would tune with the pegs is 2 reasons. One is if the fine tuners were really, really short and you couldn't tune the instrument. It needed to be brought up and you couldn't bring the pitch up anymore. You'd have to bring these out and then tighten it with the pegs. The other reason you would use the peg is if the instrument is really, really out, or if the string is really loose, which sometimes happens. Sometimes the peg pops and loses its grip in the hole and it just turns, and so the string is super loose. So those are the 2 reasons that you would use the pegs. So the first thing that you need to know when using the pegs, and I'm going to have to be looking over here where my picture is and not at the camera, excuse me. But the pegs, you have 4 pegs. You have 2 on one side and 2 on the other. The upper 2 pegs are for the middle strings, and the lower 2 pegs are for the outside strings. So you need to know which peg goes with which string. So this peg goes with the E string. This peg up here goes with the A string. This peg goes to the D string, and this peg goes to the G string. So you're looking for E, A, D, and G. And this is going to look backwards because I'm using the front camera. So you want to switch, flip that when you're actually looking at the instrument. Remember, this is my right hand. This is my left hand. And also look where the strings go, because you can see which peg it's wrapped around if you just look inside of the peg box. So when you're using the pegs, one thing you need to realize is that if you turn it more than a quarter of a turn, you're very likely to break the string. So think about turning the pegs in millimeters or fractions of millimeters. One of the ways you can practice using the pegs is if the string is really loose, you can just go ahead and just turn it and see how it's going to move in there. So you're going to hold the instrument the same way. The end button is going to be on your leg. You're going to be sitting down. Make sure you don't have any distractions or anyone else too close to you or around you. Or anything else in your hands. You're going to hold it at the base of the neck and the body, so you have a good hold on it. You're going to not be touching the string, so make sure your hand is around the string and not flat up against the string. And then you're going to just experiment and just see what it's going to feel like when you move it. And you can also pluck the string as you go like this. So I'm going to go ahead and move my peg to my A string. So I'm going to bring it down, and how I'm going to do that is I'm going to exert equal pressure from my hand that's holding the instrument and the hand that's turning the peg. So this vertical motion is just as important as the turning part. You need to be pushing this way, this hand needs to be pushing the other way, so you're pushing like that. So I'm just going to turn it down. So that's tightening it. That's loosening it. And as you can see, you get a huge change as you tighten and loosen. I'm holding it really tight. Once I put my pressure on this peg and I go to turn, there's just as much pressure on this hand as on this hand. And I think that's mostly where the hidden part of tuning is you just don't see that pressure. So when you're tuning the pegs, remember that some instruments it's going to take a little bit of pressure, and some instruments you're going to take a lot of pressure. So when the string is a little bit loose, move that peg around and see how it's going to move on your instrument. Remember that you're going to push and turn. So you're going to push and turn. You're not just going to turn, you're going to push and turn. I went ahead and started my tuner on an A, and it needs to come up a little bit. And I could have done that with my fine tuner. But if it's really low, okay, so that's how you tune with the peg. If you're tuning on the right side, so if you're tuning A or E, you're going to be on one side. If you're tuning D and G, you're going to be on the other side. Also, most people are not ambidextrous, so remember that it's going to take a little bit more concentration to do the non-dominant side when you're turning the pegs than the dominant side. I'm a right-handed person, so this side is easier for me. This side is a little more difficult for me. So give yourself time to adjust. So that's how you tune a violin or viola. Like, subscribe, and share. Thank you for watching from the Winston-Salem Symphony and Miss Morris, Teacher of Strings.